In the previous chapter, Father J talks about the power of prayer and the power of our intentions. It brings to mind a lot of things my friends and I have been studying lately. For example, manifestation is a very hot topic right now. Many books have been written about it, but honestly, it was already mentioned by Jesus some 2,500 years ago. The thought of visualizing something as if you already have it is what he was talking about, and that's what manifestation is all about today. I also love the idea of making our prayers more personalized, more from the heart, not something that was written by strangers and taught to us as children that we'd repeat over and over again because it was part of the training that we were taught. As a child, the prayers were helpful because we wouldn't know how to talk to God in any other way. However, I only remember a few prayers today. And yes, they are helpful, but over time, you just start saying them by rote. You don't even realize the words that you're saying. It just comes out because it was something that was memorized. Interestingly, this brings to mind one of Father J's meditation tapes that is available on my site if you want to listen to it. It is called The Lord's Prayer, and you might overlook it because you think it's just a repetition of a well-known prayer, but you would be very surprised. This particular meditation isn't just a repetition of the Lord's Prayer. He connects each section of the prayer to various energy centers within our bodies, which is something I have never considered before. I also really enjoyed the Joan of Arc story. All in all, as Father J has said in this past chapter, it is better to have a one-to-one conversation with our Creator from our heart, not just words written in some book. And on that note, let's move forward and see what Father J has in store for us today. Part 3. I have to get a little more technical in this section. It's unavoidable, considering the implications. Science is not easy to simplify or to offer in clear terms, and yet it is the other side of the metaphysics, along with religion. My main goal in life has been to pursue truth. There are so many superstitions and false premises adhered to by the educated as well as the uneducated. Truth is quite elusive in a world filled with conflicting views on almost everything. The vastness of the universe, the quest for what is real, and the beliefs based on observation alone are both confusing and disturbing, to say the least. Where does a person start on a meaningful journey towards the stars? Why must every religion be revisited and seen in its proper perspective, which is considered paranormal? I will explain why I believe this is so. On a spectrum between the most fundamental attitude on one end and the most liberal on the other, how can people living in the same country, the same city, the same neighborhood, and being raised in a similar atmosphere be so different from each other? My reflections center on my own experience and studies. You may or may not agree with me, and that is all right, if we are at least listening to what each other has to say. Chapter 12. Our Place in the Universe. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here, and whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. By Max Ehrmann. I am neither a professional scientist nor an astronomer. I majored in philosophy and minored in English when I graduated from Sacred Heart Seminary College in 1952. Nevertheless, since my childhood, long before I entered the seminary, I have always been interested in the heavens and its possible influence on us. Later, I wondered if there were any scientific explanations for the belief that the stars and the neighboring planets really had an impact on our lives. There is not a single human being I have ever met who has not pondered the question of our existence on this planet. As a child, it was delightful to discover the whys and wherefores of our environment by testing just about everything in sight to see how things work, break so easily, or spill so smoothly on the floor. to which parents would unhappily testify. Typically, as a child, it soon became increasingly clear to me, and the average child, that there were laws that had to be obeyed, such as not playing with fire and being careful not to fall down the stairs. Then there were biological laws to be met, such as eating to survive. Respect for Mother Nature and the starry heavens grew with the years, especially when for the first time I witnessed and marveled at the full moon floating out in space. I realized at a young age that there is a power out there that is far beyond anything we are capable of fully understanding or duplicating. In fact, my mind simply short-circuited when I discovered from books on astronomy that there are billions, perhaps an infinite number, of stars, galaxies, comets, meteors, and now black holes all through the universe. More recently, there has been genuine evidence that there may be life elsewhere in space. It is very easy to limit our life, our thinking, our imagination, and our belief system to the parameters of the Earth. We often forget that our Earth home is a little point in space, surrounded by billions of other stars and, very possibly, millions of other planets like our own. The youngsters studying science or astronomy today probably know more than the great astronomers of centuries ago. It was only in the 16th century that Nicholas Copernicus, a German Prussian, who is considered the father of modern astronomy, was credited for the theory that the Earth revolved on its own axis and also orbited the Sun along with other planets in the solar system. He began his serious study in 1507. Later, Galileo Galilei found himself in serious trouble early in the 17th century for propounding the Copernican theories concerning the solar system. He was called to Rome and was forced by the Inquisition to recant his theories. The thought of the day was that the Earth was the center of the universe and everything revolved around it. The proof was based on observation alone. Although a little late, Galileo's theories were accepted posthumously by Pope John Paul II, and forgiveness was sought for the treatment he received at the hands of the Church centuries before. We have come a long way since then. Young students today would consider it unthinkable that the huge sun, 1,000 times larger than the Earth, would be revolving around a stationary Earth. Since the construction of the famous Mount Palomar telescope with its 200-inch mirror, and the unrivaled Hubble Telescope orbiting in space at this moment, the universe is becoming more and more familiar. The universe is filled with galaxies. Before 1900, no one knew what a galaxy was. Then, by 1920, a select number of astronomers knew. By 1924, this knowledge was shared by all astronomers. Galaxies are the largest single aggregate of stars in the universe. They are, to astronomy, what atoms and subatomic particles are to physics. Galaxies are phenomenal, immense, and mysterious. As incredible as they are, we happen to live on one. Our solar system is part of an unbelievably large grouping of stars known as the Milky Way. Our nebula, or galaxy, the Milky Way, is composed of more than 100 billion star systems. A select number of stars, if not all, may have planets similar to those in our solar system. As of this writing, scientists have recently discovered about 12 planets orbiting other stars in outer space. These and other stars are moving in rhythm with other star systems and galaxies. In fact, all galaxies, quasars, comets, and meteors are all moving in what may be described as an enormous cosmic dance. The dance of the smallest atom and the grandiose dance of the largest galaxy is beautiful to behold. Our sun is part of the cosmic dance, shining brightly every day for us, and in a very real sense is our life giver. Without question, we are basically star people. The Earth and everything on it, including our bodies, originally came from the sun. It would be true to say that our bodies are crystallized sunlight. The same is true for the trees, mountains, and flowers, etc. Such beauty throughout the universe is not an accidental, random, unpredictable result out of a hodgepodge of cosmic primordial soup. I believe that nothing happens without the guiding hand of the Creator. Everything appears at its proper moment. The unlimited power of God has been and still is in control of all cosmic forces. It is my firm belief that the whole universe is unfolding and everything is on time. Here is an excerpt from Pierre Teilhard de Chardin's book, Hymn of the Universe. He was a Jesuit theologian, scientist, geologist, and paleontologist. He sees the whole universe and all of humanity being prepared precisely for the coming of Christ into this world. The prodigious expanses of time which preceded the first Christmas were not empty of Christ. They were imbued with the influx of his power. It was the ferment of his conception that stirred up the cosmic masses and directed the initial developments of the biosphere. It was the travail preceding his birth that accelerated the development of instinct and the birth of thought upon the earth. Let us have done with the stupidity which makes a stumbling block of the endless eras of expectancy imposed on us by the Messiah, the fearful, anonymous labors of primitive man, the beauty fashioned through its age-long history by ancient Egypt, the anxious expectancies of Israel, the patient distilling of the attar of Oriental mysticism, the endless refining of wisdom by the Greeks. All these were needed before the flower could blossom on the rod of Jesse and of all humanity. All these preparatory processes were cosmically and biologically necessary that Christ might set foot upon our human stage. And all this labor was set in motion by the active, creative awakening of his soul, inasmuch as that human soul had been chosen to breathe life into the universe. When Christ first appeared before men in the arms of Mary, he had already stirred up the world. In greater detail, it is now an accepted fact that the earth is a global village. There are more books and more newspapers available in the reader's market than ever before in the history of the human race. And yet, there is much more than that. Previous civilizations did not have the advantage of television and the satellite system in outer space, relay systems on the Earth, fiber optics, computers, stored gigabytes of information, the Internet, and countless extensions of the above. In the course of time, Mother Nature has revealed many of her secrets. It is now common knowledge that the tides are affected in rhythm with the moon, that moon cycles and menstrual cycles are related, that the internal biorhythm of every human being follows a pattern from the day we are born. The physical cycle being 22 days, with critical days and peak performance days on specific best and worst days of each month for the rest of our life. Also, the emotional cycle, consisting of 28 days, again, the best and worst days of the month every 2 weeks. Lastly, there is the intellectual cycle of 33 days in which, on specific days, we are mentally alert and sharp, or, on critical days, mentally disoriented. All three rhythms follow a definite pattern and are predictable. In fact, I read in a book on biorhythms that Japanese and German pilots are not permitted to fly commercial flights on critical days, ensuring the best performance for the sake of security. Butterflies are an interesting phenomenon. The death of a crawling caterpillar in a cocoon and emerging as a butterfly through a metamorphosis is a fact to which we can all witness. It is an incredible sign of new life, visible and observable before our very eyes. Just as mysterious is the lengthy journey of the monarch butterfly, which flies south each year from Minnesota, Illinois, or Michigan, for example, and settles in a designated place in Mexico. The sky becomes so cluttered with the many thousands of them that the sun is completely blocked out. The monarch delivers its larvae and the young offspring in due season, flies back exactly to the location up north where its parent came from, a place it had never been before. And the cycle continues. This is only a small example of the biogenetics that is taking place continually before our very eyes. More broadly speaking, revelations and discoveries take place or unfold when our global awareness on Earth is ready for the next step into higher consciousness. Are inventions that raise the awareness of the human race overnight happening purely by chance or accident? I doubt it. I really don't believe in accidents. From our point of view, yes, but not from God's point of view. They occur only when the time is right and when humankind is ready to advance on a scale of awareness or need. Some of the most practical inventions happen, to all appearances, quite by accident. I believe those accidents were directed by divine guidance and happened only because the timing was right in our development. For example, there is a microwave oven in practically every home now, but not before 1947. An American, Percy LeBaron Spencer, while working on the emission of shortwave electromagnetic energy, discovered the microwave accidentally. In 1946, he was doing research for the Raytheon Company when he noticed that the microwaves had melted a piece of candy in his pocket. Only then did he realize the enormous benefit of microwaves in cooking. As we now know, microwaves directly affect the food they cook by creating within the foodstuff a molecular vibration that produces heat. The microwave oven was ready for marketing the following year. Another surprise discovery. Velcro is found in nearly every home today. It often replaces shoelaces on tennis shoes. Some metal zippers and often used on children's tote bags and packaging. Velcro is a Swiss discovery that dates from 1948. Returning from a day's hunting, the engineer George de Mestral often noticed that thistle blossoms clung to his clothing. He became very curious as to the reason for this happening. He was a persistent fellow, so one day he placed the thistle under a microscope. He then realized that each of the thistle blossoms contained tiny hooks, allowing it to catch onto fabric. It then occurred to him to fix similar hooks on fabric strips which would cling together and serve as fasteners. Another of Mother Nature's secrets unveiled. It took about 8 years to develop the basic product. 2 nylon strips, one of which contained thousands of small hooks, and the other even smaller loops. When the 2 strips were pressed together, they formed a quick and practical fastener. The invention was named Velcro, from 2 French words, velours, meaning velvet, and crochet, meaning hook. It was patented worldwide in 1957. The process of discovery is moving rapidly today due to high-tech methods which accelerate the whole process of generating something new, something more efficient, something that makes life easier and more exciting. So, where are these new things leading us? Do they help us to discover who we are and what we are doing on planet Earth? We know we are here. Our senses tell us that. How did we get here? Why are we born in this world? Where are we going? Is everything mechanical, like clockwork? Do we have a choice in the matter? Is everything by chance? When we were conceived, were we a random pick among the possibilities, like a lotto number? I recall in my earlier years many times yelling out to the universe, God, anybody out there, please tell me why I am here. Even though I had been gifted with an incredible vision with 3 of my siblings, Rose, Billy, and Tony, and witnessed several miraculous healings with my mother in Cary, Ohio, I still needed affirmation from time to time. Eventually, I learned a great deal about myself, my purpose, my direction, my temporary goals, and, most importantly, my eternal goal. Scripture helped a lot. I was quite excited the first time I realized that there was a time for each of us to be born and a time to die. including major events between them. Our birth was not by chance. We did not come into this world unnoticed. The universe accepted us precisely at the right time and the right place. You did not enter the world of flesh by accident. One of my favorite passages in the Old Testament is found in the book of Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1 through 8. There is an appointed time for everything, and a time for every affair under the heavens. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to uproot the plant. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to tear down, and a time to build. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones, and a time to gather them. A time to embrace, and a time to be far from embraces. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to rend, and a time to sow. A time to be silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and a time of peace. What advantage has the worker from his toil? I have considered the task which God has appointed for us to be busied about. He has made everything appropriate to its time, and has put the timeless into our hearts, without us ever discovering from beginning to end the work which God has done. You are not an accident. He has made everything appropriate to its time, even your birth and all the main events in your life. What is not determined is your response to life. Your free will, plus God's grace, decides your destiny. Thank you for listening, and please join us every Sunday for our watch party at our new premiere time of 2:30 Pacific Time as I premiere the next chapters of Father Jay's book.